welcome to Caesar's Snack Sandwich. Today I'm taking a quick look at infinity pools. Now I've been meaning to look at this for a little while. Some people told me about it. And, today I took a look at this one. Now I know that there's another one out already called Good Entry or something like that. But anyways, this is the one I just decided to look at. So there might be similarities. I might look at the other one, and if it's significantly different, I might make a video on it. And if not, I'll just use this as my reference to how these things work. This is basically the main idea of this thing is it allows for like perpetual trading, so leverage trading, right? But there's no liquidations. Okay, so you don't get liquidated if your price action goes down based on this, but it does require two parties to work together to achieve this optionality. So as usual, I would suggest there's no docs that I could find, at least, so you could read this Medium article, which kind of explains very briefly the idea, or you can go and read this white paper, which I did as well. Now there's some stuff in here that I don't really have the time to really dig deep in here, like this math. I'm not very good at math, so I don't really get how this interest rate is calculated, and I'll mention that like when I'm going through the flow chart, that I don't really understand how the interest rate's going to be calculated, but I do understand the concepts of how this thing can kind of work. Okay, now they give a lot of examples about how this thing can be kind of looked at as as puts and calls and stuff like that. But anyways, let me go to the flow chart and kind of go through how I understand this, and then you can, as usual, you can come read the docs, or you can join their Discord and ask more questions to understand this deeper. If you would like to support the channel, I would suggest you to check out the secretsandwich.xyz. It's the Secret Sandwich NFT project. You can come here, you can mint an NFT, or you can come and check out your NFTs. Okay, so let's get back to it. Okay, so here we are on the flowchart. We have Dollar Bill. Dollar Bill wants to do some stuff with ETH and USDC in this example, okay? Now you can probably do this with any pool on a Uniswap version 3. So this kind of uses a Uniswap version 3 technology to achieve this, okay? So let's talk a little bit about Uniswap v3 just to kind of get a little primer on how the thing works. Okay, so like most liquidity pools, you provide two tokens. So in this case, he could provide ETH and USDC. However, there is a possibility that he could add just one of the tokens and achieve a position on Uniswap version 3. So like perhaps he can just add a USDC, right? So now why do people add liquidity to Uniswap version 3? Well, the first reason is because they can get trading fees while it's in range. While the comparison of the two prices they select is in range, then they gain trading fees, but they gain substantially more trading fees than they would if they spread it out across infinity, like the Uniswap version 2. Okay, now anyone can come along and trade these tokens. They will pay fees and maybe get hit with slippage depending on how deep the pool is. So let's take a look at some numbers here. So let's say Dollar Bill chooses a range of he wants he wants the highest price to be 1,000 USDC per ETH, and the lowest range he thinks it will be $900, 900 USDC per ETH. So that's kind of what he's visualizing, that the price is going to maybe fluctuate in that range, and he wants to get as much trading fees as possible. So let's say the current price of ETH is $1,000. So instead of supplying both tokens, he could then supply 1,000 USDC because it's at the current price, right? So now, like I said, if the price of ETH goes up, right, then he's going to be sitting all in USDC. So let's say when he enters this position, however he enters it, right, the price goes to $1,100 or 1,100 USDC per ETH, then his position is going to sit all in ETH, right? So if it goes down, though, if the price of ETH goes down and goes below his lowest point, then he will be all in ETH. So it's like that's why they call it impermanent loss maxed out, right? So if the price goes down, like let's say right now he puts 1,000 USDC in here, and the price is $1,000. If it goes down to 899, then he will have no USDC left in his pool, and he will have like $989 worth of ETH at that time, right? And then if it continues to go down, he will still have the same amount of ETH, but it will be worth less and less and less, right? So this is kind of how Uniswap works. You can kind of think of it like these ranges are like kind of like the points where I want to sell all of it, okay? So I either want to sell all my ETH to USDC when it goes to the top, or all my USDC to ETH when it goes through the bottom, okay? So along comes these infinity pools, and there's two ways to enter according to the white paper. Is one, he can take a position he already has on Uniswap, and he can zap into this position, or he can come to infinity pools with his tokens and build it. Now, it doesn't work exactly the same, but it's quite similar. So they're able to just zap them, like convert them, so to speak, but they're not using Uniswap version 3 actual contracts to hold your assets, okay? So some of the benefits that he will get on top of this is that he can get interest payments from people borrowing. Remember, we talked about this is going to be perpetual leverage trading, right? So someone has to come along, and Boosted Bill will come along and borrow his assets and leverage trade them, okay? So in order for Boosted Bill to borrow, he has to pay some fees, right? He has to pay some interest, so he will pay the interest. So dollar bill here, by supplying here, he's going to get trading fees while it's in range, right? Anyone can swap, right? But when it gets borrowed, when his assets get borrowed, then he will get paid interest payments instead. And then when it gets borrowed, only the borrower can swap through these assets without slippage, okay? So while it's idle, it's still tradable, but while it's borrowed, the borrower pays interest, and only he can swap, okay? And of course, there will be no trading fees at the time when, there won't be a whole bunch of people trading during the pool because it's going to be borrowed out, okay? So along comes Boosted Bill. He wants to do some leverage trading. He wants to do long ETH or something like that. So what does he do? Is he comes along and he borrows the USDC. So let's say right now the price is still 1,000 USDC for ETH, and he's put these numbers. So he only has USDC in here right now. He's got $1,000, right, of USDC, and Boosted Bill will borrow it, take that USDC, buy ETH with it, and then hold ETH. So now he's long ETH with $1,000 roughly, right? However, he can't do this for free, right? There's some risk here. So let's talk a little bit about what happens here, okay? So he needs to put up some collateral. And now how does this collateral get calculated? With these simple numbers, you can kind of think of it this way. Let's say ETH goes up to 1,100 or 1,200 or 1,300 or whatever, right? Dollar bill is only expecting $1,000 because, like I said, if price goes up, he's going to have $1,000 left in this Uniswap version 3 position, and that's it. He's going to have 1,000 USDC sitting there, okay? So if the price goes up for Boosted Bill, because he's bought some ETH, right? So if that ETH goes up, right, then he will still only owe $1,000 or 1,000 USDC, right? But let's say the ETH goes to 1,200 or 300, then that 200 or 300 extra dollars is his money. He's made it, okay? Now, this is how the collateral is calculated. It's based on if he loses, if he misjudges, okay? So let's say he chooses the ETH goes down instead. So if he's holding like roughly 1,000 USDC worth of ETH because he took 1,000, swapped it, right? But let's say the ETH goes down in value to $900, then he still owes Boosted Bill. He still owes Dollar Bill $1,000 because he borrowed $1,000, and he only has $900 worth of assets. So then he can, he has to put another $100 worth of collateral in order at the time of borrowing. So it's based on his numbers that his collateral needs are calculated, right? So I can see that like everybody who comes in here is going to have different numbers. It's going to all be pretty crazy. So I think it's going to be pretty complicated to understand exactly how this number is calculated, because there's going to be so many different people with so many different perimeters and numbers and prices like that. Okay, but this kind of gives you an idea. Okay, because he has to always pay back that $100, right? Now, moving on, some of the things that there are two kinds of interest payments that Boosted Bill is going to pay the dollar bill, and the first one is going to be a fixed term. So let's say he just wants like a small amount of leverage, right? And the leverage comes from, if you think about it, like he's put up $100, but he's bought $1,000 worth of ETH. So that's where the leverage comes in, right? So for fixed terms, so if his leverage is between 1 to 40x, then he can choose a fixed term leverage, right? And then he will pay that interest payment upfront as well, and it's all calculated. So he says, you know, I want this for 5 days. Then the system will calculate his interest and calculate his collateral needs based on the perimeters, right? And then, you know, he will have to put that both as upfront, right? And then when the position's closed, then the interest payment goes to dollar bill, right? So upfront for fixed term, okay? And then they have this other thing called this revolving term for like more higher leverage, okay? So the revolving term, the first thing you can do is you can close at any time. So let me make sure you understand this. Like he paid upfront interest. So on a fixed term, he paid upfront interest. Like he can sell back to USDC anytime he wants. He can sell in and out of USDC and ETH as much as he wants during that fixed term, during that term period. But he can't actually close the position. Like he's paid all the interest for the entire time. So, you know, he's got that time, that those assets are allocated to him for that time. I'm sure he could probably close it down. It doesn't say that in the white paper, but maybe he could close it down, but he's not going to get any of his interest payments back, okay? However, if he's using a revolving term and he's got a whole bunch more interest, right, and he's selected revolving term, then he's going to pay probably a lot more interest payments, right? But he can close it at any time. So he can close his position to stop paying. So he's still going to pay upfront interest, right? But when he closes it, he gets a refund of the interest that he shouldn't have paid for, okay? And the last thing I'm going to talk about is this thing they talk about in the white paper. It's called the APR threshold, okay? So he can set a threshold of APR, like how much interest rate he's willing for that revolving term interest rate to change to, because this revolving term interest rate can fluctuate based on like utilization, and also like this guy, it needs to be paid more for Boosted Bill to borrow it than he would be getting if it's sitting inside just collecting trading fees. Now there is some more math in there on this as well, which I don't quite understand, so you can probably dig deeper onto that as well and figure out why, you know, how this interest rates are being calculated. But if he sets his threshold, let's say he says, oh, I want my threshold to be 10%. I don't want to pay more than 10%. And he's got a position, and then he goes to sleep, and that interest rate for some reason goes above 10%, like 10.1, whatever, then the position will automatically unwind. So it will close it down. And then if it goes back down to like 8%, it'll wind back up. Okay, so it'll open back up again. So this is pretty interesting. I think that's pretty much it. That's how I understand it. I'm going to dig deeper into this and maybe wait for the docs to pop out, and then I'm going to read a little bit deeper and try to understand this a little bit more. But I do find this to be very clever and very interesting. It's like like a perpetuals without like any liquidation, and the utilization of this like Uniswap version 3 kind of position is quite good, because like Uniswap version 3 positions are nice. You know, you can provide it, you get these trading fees, but like sometimes when it goes out of range, you get no trading fees, right? But when it goes out of range, Boosted Bill can still borrow it because it's still 1,000 USDC. Like ETH could go down to like $60, and there would still be 1,000 USDC in here, and he could borrow that 1,000 USDC and long ETH, hoping that it would go up. Okay, so that's pretty much it for today. I hope this has been useful and interesting, and thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.